Streets and Scholars, Alex Alonso and FG, bring you another banger. FG's in the house. What's going on?
No doubt. Shit, what's going on with it, Alex? I'm good on this end.
Oh man, just trying to figure out what we're gonna chop it up about today, man. There's a few interesting topics going on in the news, and we'll get to some of them. PnB Rock's alleged killers were arrested, and what else here? We got YG has a new song out.
No doubt.
Called How to Rob a Rapper.
Yeah.
And Gavin Newsom signed an interesting new bill that has to do with hip hop and criminal court proceedings. But before we get into it, man, I have a couple of updates, man. I've been checking Guy Reffitt's status. Remember when I asked you that it said that not in BOP custody?
Right.
It actually said that for like 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Today is the first week where it says he's in custody.
Okay, yeah.
And he's in FCI Latuna, but I'm assuming he's in the camp part of Latuna, right? Or would they send a Capitol rioter on the FCI to a FCI?
Well, it's I could say two things because I've been up to Latuna, and it's right there on the border of El Paso and Anthony, Texas. You know, you can see it right off the 10 if you hit it that way. One thing about if he at the low, they have a low and a camp. But that low over there, Latuna, I bullshit you not, Alex. It rocks and rolls, man. It rocks and rolls. I've never seen a low that vicious before. You know what I mean? No bullshit. You know what I mean? Now, if he at the camp, he over there kickback, chilling, weights, you know what I mean? Going to cut people grass and shit out in the city, and, you know, he living a cool life. But if he over at that low, man, I don't know how long he'll be over there if he ain't with the bullshit in there as well.
Now, when you say he's at the low, that means that there's two different Latuna facilities?
Right. You have a camp and a low. Normally, FCI is the medium. And then you got the USP, which is the penitentiary, United States Penitentiary. I know for sure that Latuna only has a low and a camp. And actually, they have two low. They have a low and 2 camp facilities. So if he's at the camp, he's chilling.
Okay. And are the camp facilities right next to each other?
One of them is, and one of them is on the military base. That's not far from it. One of them is like you can look out the window from the low and see the camp down there. You know what I mean? And like I say, the campers, they go around and they have a housing for the staff members and shit, because a lot of people don't know that the correctional officers, you know, come from other places. So sometimes before they buy a house in that city, or maybe they only going to be there a year or so before they transfer, they have housing on the facilities for correctional officers. And what the campers do, they'll go cut the people grass. They'll, you know, maintain shit around the city. You know, you have even at the camp jobs, they have it to where you may go take the trash in a regular pickup truck down to the city dump, you know, things of that nature. So if he down at the camp, you know, like I say, he down there chilling, you know what I mean? But if he's at that low, I bullshit you not, man, at that low, and anybody that can attest to it who's ever been there, it's turned up, way turned up to be a low, you know.
Now, I don't remember all his charges. I know he was found guilty of 5 of 6 different felonies. One was taking a gun onto government property. Would those 5 felony convictions be enough to go to the medium?
Yeah, but he's in Latuna. They don't have a medium. So he's at the
low.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. Yeah. Oh, easily. And with the time he got, you know what I mean? Even though that he's haven't been convicted of a crime ever, and his points could be super low because of that.
And he's older. He's 49 years old.
And he's older. You know, no doubt. He could definitely and not to mention the political connections that, you know, they have but don't have. You know what I mean? You know, it's politics behind what they did as well. You know, it's politicians that agree with what they did was cool. So it's nothing for somebody to call, and, you know, so I'm almost certain that he's at one of the camps, you know what I mean? And like I say, the one camp that's right next to the low is wide open. You know, the other camp is like on the military base, so you got to go in and out the military base when you go to work and shit like that, or they work on the military base, the campers. So, you know, but I really think he's at the camp, one of the camps, chilling, to be honest with you.
Now, when he got sentenced to his, what was it, like 8 or 9 years, it says here his release date will be March 23rd, 2027. which would be 85% of whatever he was sentenced to.
Right.
So that means he's going to do, that's 5 years on a 7-8 year sentence he got.
Yeah, I think he got 6 or 7 years. Yeah, 7 years maybe on that case. So I thought he got 6. To be honest with you, we can go back and do the research, but I thought he got 6. Off that 6, he probably do 4 years, 8 months, something like that.
Okay.
And it's easy to go to a camp and
who makes that decision? Does the judge determine whether you go into the low, to the camp?
BOP. You know what I mean? When you get ready to go to a facility, when I was sentenced, my attorney asked the judge, Frank Giacomo asked the judge if I could be housed close to home, because I have a wife, I didn't have a wife then, because I have a family, because I have children, because I have these things. Could I be housed? And the judge is going to say the same thing every time, I write that in my notes, but it's entirely up to the BOP.
Oh, okay. Well, it says here on the BOP website that there's 630 inmates at the FCI, which would be the low.
Right.
And there's 211 inmates at the camp.
Right.
So if you're at the camp, you're really not even dealing with a lot of people. It's just 200 total people there in the first place.
Right. If you're at the camp, man, like I say, you're down there chilling.
And if there's 2 camps, that 200 are split in both those.
It could be split, but I'm assuming that the camp they're referring to is the one that's immediately next to it, because it's 2 units over there at that camp, and they may have 100 and some people per. You know what I mean? But I know they over there living good over there at that camp. They eating Carl's Jr. You know what I mean? They living good over there. You know what I mean?
That's what whenever you hear these politicians or just people, there's a lot of citizens that don't like the idea of a criminal going to a federal prison because there's this like reputation that they living good, they're playing golf, they're playing tennis. You said they're eating Carl's Jr. That's a trip, because you don't get none of that action in the state prison.
No, but the one thing that I did like about Latuna Camp, where he was they had various programs over there that allowed. They had a group, and there was a CO named Franco down there. And what he did was he used to take a group of inmates out to the elementary schools and junior highs and high schools to deter kids from entering prison. Now the kids didn't know that they was coming from a camp. You know what I mean? They thought they was just regular, prisoners, which they are. They still in jail, so they prisoners. But they used to go and I like programs to go out and teach them kids or try to deter them kids. It wasn't a scared straight type program. It just was a informative program to, not want to end up where we were. So I did dig that about the camp that they had down at Latuna.
So how long were you there?
I was only there about a year before they got me the fuck up out of there, sent me back. They said, man, enough is enough. Get this dude up out of here. Send his ass back. And one thing about it, and everybody know, once you leave California, it's so hard to get back. You know what I mean? But when it's in the best interest of the prison to get you off that motherfucking yard, they hesitate to, hey, man, get this dude back. Send him somewhere. You know what I mean?
So you didn't enjoy your stay there? You was ready to get out of there?
Nah, I was cool. To be honest with you, I was cool and doing my shit, but you do have to understand when you hit a prison yard, right? We from California. That's a Texas yard. You got the Texas Syndicate. You got so many different Texas groups. So when we come together, we California. You know what I mean? So Cali don't budge on shit. I mean, just be honest with you. No matter where we going, we gonna represent. We gonna rock and roll. So the bullshit that we bring to the table, the politics, the gangster shit. You know what I mean? We don't care if it's 1,000, others. You know what I mean? And 12 Cali, we gonna represent it, and we gonna have our way. That's just how we get down. So we had a little influences over there and shit. And when the time came, they opened up Mendota. A lot of people haven't heard of Mendota. It's a prison that they built right outside of Fresno. And soon as it opened, that's the best way to get back to California is if a new prison opened. We didn't ask to come home. They came and asked us, hey, man, y'all want to get up out of here? You know what I mean? And I was cool, but they really wanted us gone.
Now, I'm tripping that Latuna's in Texas. Guy Reffert is from Texas. Mm-hmm. So he managed to use the system to his benefit. Even though he's going to prison, he's close to home.
Well, I mean, when I got to Victorville, my first spot, Victorville, I was an hour and a half from the house, so I can't complain, You know what I mean? I was able to see my kids regularly. I was able to see my family regularly. I was able to see friends regularly, and I don't hate on that. I believe that should be implemented everywhere, just based on, okay, yeah, I'm in jail, but at the same time, don't send me somewhere where I can't bond with my family. So I'm not hating on him on that end. I'm glad he got to be kind of close where he can at least, communicate with his folks, no matter what he paying he doing time for his crime. So, don't disconnect me from my family. So I'm not mad at that at all,
Well, he was sentenced to 87 months, which is 7 years. 7 years is 84 months and 3 months. So 7 years and a quarter.
Oh, okay, shit.
He was sentenced to 7 years and a quarter, but his release date is 2027. That math doesn't add up to me.
It don't add up.
Right? His release date is 2027, and he was out on bail during this whole case, so he doesn't get any. You don't get credit when you're out on bail, right?
No.
Okay, so he turned himself in 2022, and he turned himself in mid 2022. So it's not even a full 5 years that he's going to do with this release date being March of 2027. So what's up with the 85% you're supposed to do?
And that's not even 85, because technically he's going to get out 6 months probably before that, due to the halfway house that he's entitled to. So, the BOP date, which a lot of people don't know, is the long-term date. You know what I mean? But you actually get out, 4-6 months before that, because you go to the halfway house. You still in BOP custody at the halfway house, but you at the halfway house, you know what I mean? So he sound like, man, he I don't know, Alice, that don't add up.
Well, 85% is 73 months, and 73 months is an even 7 years. 5 years is 60 months. No, I'm sorry, it's an even 6 years. 72 months is 6 years. So he's supposed to do at least 6 years. That would take him to 2028. That would take him to mid 2028, whenever he turned himself in, like July. So he's getting about 1.5 years off his sentence for some reason.
Well, let's go back and see if, before we get to talking about it, I heard that they had passed a 65% law for people who had nonviolent crimes. Before we get to talking, let's go back and see if that law actually passed, and maybe he fell under that. Because I don't keep up with the new BOP. When I was in there, I kept up with every law that was going on, but he may have gotten the 65% based on nonviolent, which, if he had a gun, shouldn't have been nonviolent, but maybe he worked a twist. But we'll go back and check, because that don't add up, to be honest with you.
Well, I think just the mere possession of a gun is nonviolent. It's
right.
If you pull it out,
in the commission of a crime. No, you're absolutely right.
In fact, he argued that he didn't have a gun on him, even though you can see the holster.
But he didn't use it in the commission.
Never used it. Never pulled it out. But I guess possessing a weapon on property you're not supposed to possess it on should be a nonviolent offense. Yeah, so maybe he got the 65%.
Maybe he wouldn't got the 65, which I commend him on knocking that down. If that, down to that 85, a monster.
Yeah, so I'll check that into that.
We'll check back into that.
All right, man. Remember Nicole Linton, the girl who drove her car? They said that she was in 13 car collisions.
No doubt.
And we talked about that. I think we said that. I think we called that out early.
Yeah, that just sounds way impossible.
It turned out not to be true at all.
For sure.
It's not 13 accidents. So the LA Times put that out there.
Yeah, that's wild, man, that they would do that. You know what I mean? Like I say, I used to look at LA Times as a credible resource, but at the same time, I mean, people can misprint stuff or get information, but before you put something down, like we sit here and we do live shows, so we liable to say some things every now and then that, you know what I mean? But when you print something, it seemed like you'd have did the full research before you just put that out there like that.
Well, here's the problem with most media outlets, print media. They get information from law enforcement. They give them a memo, they give them a brief, and they take it at face value. Yeah. So if the brief said that the California Highway Patrol said she was involved in 13 wrecks, as the LA Times put it, then they're going to publish that as fact, even though they're not going to question the CHP.
No, you got a point, but out 13 accidents, I would have questioned it.
I would have questioned it immediately. I mean, I questioned it.
Right.
I even called BS on it.
No doubt.
And here we are, 3 weeks later, we finding out. This is what happened. according to Nicole Linton's sisters, that every time you call AAA or you call roadside assistance, that goes down as an incident that happened on the highway or the freeway.
Right.
So the CHP or whoever gave the LA Times this information counted every single flat tire, I need a battery jump.
Right.
They called it as an incident, and apparently she has 13 incidences.
Right.
Which is okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But nah, there's not 13 wrecks or car collisions, so we could dead all that information.
Okay.
Okay, I got a question for you. And well, before I get to the PnB, man, there's some Cain Velasquez news, but the update is not on Cain Velasquez. It's on his attorney, Mark Geragos, who's like a celebrity attorney. I remember he defended Michael Jackson years ago.
Right.
But apparently the California State Bar has revealed that they're investigating Geragos for fraud, insurance fraud related to a settlement to, I guess, some money connected to the Armenian Genocide, which happened like over 100 years ago. So I thought that was interesting because Mark Geragos for decades has been squeaky clean,
Right.
never caught up in anything. And now the state bar is stating that he's under investigation. And I wonder if Cain Velasquez is going to consider removing him as an attorney. For example, when you had Frank DiGiacomo, if you were told this lawyer's under investigation, it might not be a good idea to roll with him, even though he's not convicted or charged of anything. Do you change your lawyer, or you say I'm riding with my lawyer until they come down with whatever they're alleging?
Well, for me, me and Frank's situation was maybe a little different from Cain Velasquez and Mark Geragos, and I could be wrong. But me and Frank had fought 2 or 3 cases before, and before we got to the feds. So at that time, or even a couple times before then, had you told me he was under investigation, he's not charged, he's not convicted, I'm riding with my attorney. Now, don't get me wrong, I would have to let Frank know that, Frank, this is a black eye on the game, because the judge can look at you even start looking at you a certain way. You know what I mean? But I would definitely say but you roll with me, man. When I when under investigation, I'm gonna ride with you when you under investigation. Let's do it.
Well, I'm sure your attorney, if I'm your attorney and we've been on these cases, I'm saying, look, how many trials have we been through together? How many cases have we done?
You don't even have to say that.
Don't even pay attention to these investigations. It's bullshit.
No doubt.
But it can get a lawyer in huge trouble. It can get a lawyer disbarred.
No doubt.
It can get a lawyer charged. Suge Knight's a former attorney got charged, Matthew Fletcher, and he was found guilty, so he got disbarred. And that just messed up his whole case.
Exactly.
I mean, Suge Knight actually had a chance to defend it, but everything got screwed up. So Cain has to make a decision. Do I ride with Mark Geragos, or do I try to get another lawyer? I don't know. We'll find out, man. What would you tell Cain?
I would tell Cain to ride it out. Dude is a great lawyer, so I can't say that. He's a great attorney. You know what I mean? So as long as he keep it ethical as far as his case is concerned, the judge should, honor that, because at the same time, is allegations or is talks or rumors about it. If he haven't been charged and he haven't been accused, then I would just keep riding with him. I would ride it out with him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I wonder why like the State Bar of California even puts this out there as an investigation, because an investigation doesn't really tell us anything. It doesn't mean anything. Did Mark Geragos really do something? And if he did, then say that. Don't just say we're investigating it.
But I mean, don't get me wrong, it could be true. It could be something that he partook in, or I don't even think that's a word, but it still could be something that he was involved in, and they just don't want to publicly accuse him right now, because at the same time, everybody gets to get a formal hearing on if they charged with anything or if they're accused of something. So just for them to put that out there, though, is wild. Yeah,
well, they're investigating whether him, Mark Geragos, and another attorney named Brian Kabateck was spent a multimillion-dollar insurance settlement that was connected to the Armenian Genocide. So we'll have to follow up on that. But if that's the case, boy, he's in big trouble.
No doubt.
All right, man. Let's see. Now, PnB Rock, they arrested 3 people. And the first thing I want to do is I want to put the question out there. Do we owe the girlfriend an apology? Because it looks as if the investigation, according to the LAPD, the arrest had nothing. The guys that came and the arrest that followed had nothing to do with the social media post, allegedly. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the girl got slammed through the media.
Okay, but
I know we didn't slam her that hard, but we did talk about posting.
Right, and I don't think she deserves an apology because she still posted.
True.
You know what I mean? So had it came out that she never posted, that's false. Then somebody would owe her an apology. No, you still did that, and it still could have been potentially fatal or dangerous that you did post. It just so happened that it might not have been this time. You know what I mean? So no, if she didn't learn nothing else, she should learn with the heat that she took. Cut that shit out.
That's true. You don't post your locations. You don't post where you're traveling to. I got mad at my family for doing it a couple of times when we were out of state, traveling, because it's basically you telling everybody that our house is empty.
You're not home, yeah.
And go in there and steal everything we got.
No doubt. And then don't get me wrong, I look at it all ways, everybody not from the streets. My wife, your wife, kids, they not even conscious of what they doing. They just posting, and that's what they do to get their little likes, but they don't understand that, man. There's people that's really on this social media, checking for everything.
No doubt about it. I find myself having conversations with my wife, and I could completely look in her face and see, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
Right.
No but doubt, I am talking about some real shit, and you looking at me like I'm making this up.
Right. Well, it's unfortunate though that it's two things. It's cool that we have people in our life that's not their life. Just to even worry about nothing that we talking about. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, of course, we live a life. That just by people knowing who we are and things of that nature, that we have to be cautious of what we're doing. And when we talk about posting our locations and shit like that, you know what I mean? We're definitely conscious of that.
Yeah, man. I even mentioned how many PnB Rock situations do we need to see? I'm telling this to my wife before you realize that posting your location is not a good idea. And I think people get it, regardless if that had anything to do with it or not. I still think I agree with you. Shauntel was the stepmom. I can't even pronounce
I couldn't even pronounce her
last
name. Yeah,
I'm not even going to try, but the girlfriend
she
was still wrong for doing it, man. But sticking to the PnB Rock situation, actually, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, or 2 episodes ago, I even just said, the photo may not have nothing to do with it. The dudes might have just saw him pull up.
No, you definitely said that.
I said that as a possibility before the whole thing broke out. So, that it's just a alternative theory. And I still don't really 100% believe that the photo didn't play a role because, man, the police be manipulating the media all the time, because the reason why the media ran with the photo has something to do with it is because they put that out there in the first place.
No doubt.
And now they're changing the narrative. So now, so I don't know. We won't know the truth until the trial takes place, if there's going to even be a trial. But, man, they arrested the father, the teenage son, and the stepmother. It's not the mother to the teenage son. So they got 3. They got her, the stepmother, as an accessory to murder. And they have the father and the 17-year-old as murder, the charge with murder. Shit is crazy, man.
No doubt. But I'm just wondering, can they charge the stepfather with murder, even though from what we see in the news that he may have been outside or in the car or something of that nature? Can he be charged with murder?
Well, he could be charged with murder.
Right. I'm like, you got to fight that.
They can charge him with it, whatever they want, but we don't really know if he participated. I know that one of the narratives is saying that the father got word from a guy in a red shirt, air quotes, because he's not identified in the report. A guy with a red shirt tells the father, Freddie Trone, that a rich rapper is up here. Freddie Trone leaves and comes back with his son. So that narrative sounds as if the father and the son participated together. But why don't we know who the guy in the red shirt is? Because the police report does not identify man in red shirt. That means man in red shirt is an accessory too. But I mean, there would be a fourth arrest, but there is not a fourth arrest. So I don't know how true that story is.
Right. Like you said, I don't believe everything they say. You know what I mean? I wait till trial come along, or if there is a trial, and that's when the facts or the what they know comes out. You know what I mean? We so quick sometimes to see what the news say or go by the news, and then when they get to trial, it's a totally different situation. You know what I mean? So I'm definitely gonna wait and see how that pans out. You know, to see exactly how they came to the point to where they said, okay, we're gonna go arrest these 3 people. So I'm gonna definitely keep an eye on that situation just to see how that turned out. You know,
what's funny is that a lot of people in LA, whenever they're on the run, they go to Vegas. I mean, when is Vegas gonna get played out?
Oh, they did catch somebody in Vegas, didn't they?
Yeah, the father, Freddie Trone, who's 40 years old, out of LA. They arrested him in Las Vegas.
Wow.
And I guess Las Vegas is really, Las Vegas for years, for decades, has been known as a place for people in LA to go hide out.
No doubt, but like I said, I'm waiting for the information because I got questions. I'm like, how did he even get caught? Like, you know, how did they catch up with him there? Did he have, I'm just waiting for the information to come out. I don't want to speculate nothing, but I'm definitely gonna keep an eye on that situation.
Yeah, man, it's a very touchy situation. I think we got accused by a handful of commenters that we were laughing while we were talking about the PnB Rock situation. I'd have to go back and listen to it, but I'm laughing now because that's what we do. We laugh sometimes. We try to find something funny, something amusing. I'm not going to sit here and be depressed. And I feel like maybe we talking too much about PnB Rock getting killed, because how many other people have been killed in the last 2 weeks in LA?
I agree with you.
You know what I'm saying?
No doubt. And you see how probably how dry I am over here about the situation. I don't want to be insensitive to the topic. The man did lose his life.
I mean, he ain't nobody special.
I was finna
just keep it real.
Just finna get to the point to say, man, we got homies that lose their life all the time. You know what I mean? And what make this dude so special to, where we had to have so much sympathy for him, you know what I mean? And like I said, I sympathize more for his kids if he had them. I sympathize to his mother, if, and things of that nature, but at the same time, man, it's, what dude say, people getting shot out here every day, B, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And sometimes we talk about these homicides because they're high profile, because he's a successful rapper. But while we doing that, there's so many other victims in our city and our communities that don't even get no discussion about them. So sometimes I'm like, man, yeah, I'm gonna laugh because at the end of the day, some of these rappers, some of these celebrities that we talk about that end up getting caught up, getting knocked down, getting shot and killed, they ain't no special and ain't no important than anybody else. So, hey, hate on me if you want. But you know what? A lot of people are hating on YG right now.
Man, YG, huh?
YG, he just dropped a song this week that I actually found very comical. I was actually laughing while I was listening to this song and watching the video. It's How to Rob a Rapper. And what a time to put out a song like this, right when a rapper is shot and killed in Los Angeles. And he drops it with Mozzie and another guy from the Bounty Hunters. What is his name? I forget bro's name. I'm gonna look it up right now. But did you get a chance to listen to that song?
I did. and I got a couple ways I can go with it, Alex, to be honest with you. For one, with Mozzie being on the album, that lets you know that they didn't just do this.
Correct.
Mozzie been in the feds a few months now, so that lets you know that this, this was done before them.
Correct.
I do know, Alex, that on certain situations, people can hold back a movie for certain things. A tornado and hit somewhere and kill a bunch of people, and it was a tornado movie, so they hold it back. They do this for certain things. You know what I mean? These guys had this song already made. They had this video already made because Mozzie is in it.
Yeah.
Therefore, it do sound like they mocking PnB Rock, but it's clear that they did this before that, and it's damn funny. I wouldn't have held it back. I see the comments saying you guys are insensitive. Hold on, this dude wasn't nobody to hold no fucking whole video back on me getting my money and me putting, you know what I mean? Dude, and like I said, I'm not knocking him, but at the same time, dude, come on, knock it off. So I thought it was funny, man. But it sounded like they were just talking about him. But it's clear it was done before his demise.
Yeah, I mean, Mozzie's been in the feds, I believe, since July, maybe August, late July, and he's in the video.
He's in the video.
Yeah, so they clearly shot this video at least 2 or 3 months ago. So this has nothing to do with mocking PnB Rock, but I do think they're mocking Pop Smoke.
You know what I thought about Pop Smoke when I watched the video, but at the same time, if it could save the next rapper life, or it could give somebody some insight on, you know, how you dudes getting got when y'all come out here, you know what I mean, then so be it, you know. But you can't also take out the comedy out of everything. You can't make everything so sensitive, homie, that you can't fucking, you know what I mean, enjoy nothing. Because every time somebody gonna say, how's you gonna enjoy a sandwich when, you know, when it took, you know, 3 cows to make that, you know, knock it off. You know what I mean? So I don't think it was insensitive. I think that I know that it was already done. It was already made. Drop your music, man. Do your shit.
Well, it's definitely not insensitive to PnB Rock, but I could understand if somebody says, man, this is a little insensitive to Pop Smoke, because I'm going to read a couple of lines right here. It says, this is for all my broke niggas who squeeze triggers, but they don't pay you to be active. Peep game, I'm going to teach you how to rob a raptor. Catch a nigga lacking, he be slacking on IG Live. He going to show his whereabouts on accident. He be high.
Yeah, I heard that.
That's a straight jab at the way they got Pop Smoke.
But I think it's you could say that, but then it's probably really how they fucking get other dudes too. Dudes post their location. Look, we from LA, Compton, Watts, Inglewood, Linwood, Long Beach. Listen, man, it ain't too many places you could show me that's like some profile shit, and I ain't gonna know where that's at. You know what I mean? Like everybody want to go over there and post the pictures with the palm trees and shit. Everybody know where that's at, man. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like you say, yeah, you could say he might have took a jab at I don't think it was intended, but he took a jab, or it sound like he took a jab. But man, I think he just letting dudes know, man, that y'all getting yourself. You're getting yourself in trouble, man. You know what I mean? You getting yourself jacked. You know what I mean? Because there's people watching.
Yeah, the third rapper on this song is a guy named D3, and he has the last.
I like his verse.
Yeah, he got the last chorus. He's a young brother out the Nickerson Gardens. So yeah, tap in. Let us know what you think. Was this inappropriate for YG to release this song right during the height of the PnB Rock investigation? He clearly shot this video 2 or 3 months ago. It clearly has nothing to do with him. But some people are gonna say, hey, he should have held back and maybe released it in a couple of months.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you stop going to work the next day PnB Rock got killed? And the next motherfucker didn't either. They went to their jobs. They did their jobs, whether they worked at the post office, UPS, drove a truck, whatever they did, they went to work. YG and Mozzie, they went to work. That's what they do. That's how they get their money. They dropped a video. They went to work. You know what I mean? So just at the end of the day, Alex, people can talk all the shit they want to, but I'm going to just say they went to work just like the next man did.
Yeah, definitely. This is what they do. They're rappers and they rap. And, while we're talking about this rap song, and, we're chuckling and laughing a little bit because it is kind of funny. The way they shot the video, they used a drone camera and they pull up into a parking lot and they jump out of cars. I was like, hey, I like the way they shot that.
Yeah, I did too.
That was kind of cool. Then Mozzie pulls up and he jumps out.
He actually pulled up. Look, YG pulled up in the 58. You know what I mean? Mozzie pulled up in the 64. Another dude pulled up in the, I forgot what he pulled up in, but they pulled up in some clean shit. You know what I mean? So West Coast shit, you know what I mean? And Chevys, and so I dug it, but at the end of the day, man, people gonna have their opinion. People gonna say everything in the world is insensitive, but I'm gonna call bullshit on this one.
Yeah, man. I guess there's a lot of sensitive people out there with some thin skin. They're gonna even criticize the way we talking about it because we trying to enjoy this conversation. We trying to have fun, but we talking about some dark issues at the same time. But hey, this is life, man. People get murdered in America every mother effing day.
Yeah.
It's nothing unique, every day people are getting killed, and here we are for the second or third week talking about one guy. And sometimes I get frustrated about it. I might laugh because there's so many other people. There's women, prostitutes. Oh, you know what? You can't call them prostitutes. They're sex workers.
Wow.
Sex workers getting killed. Minors getting killed. So I wish we can give everyone, all these victims, attention, but we can't. So
we can't call them hoes. We can still call them hoes.
Nah,
okay.
Can't call them hoes.
Wow, man, that's crazy.
Nah, I actually was surprised that that a lot of people aren't using the word prostitute. They're trying to transition to sex worker.
Well, I'm thinking the word prostitute is transitioning to other aspects. You know what I mean? Of not being a sex worker, of being just pimped by the job, by America, by society. You know what I mean? So when I'm hearing the word prostitute now, it's in other terms, not, you know, the sex worker terms. You know what I mean? And you've heard it before. He might be on my job trying to pimp me. Who they think I am? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think those terms are moving towards other situations, but that's wild, man. They just gonna tell us what we can say and can't say.
Yeah, man. I was on one of them audio social media platforms having a conversation. I used the word transvestite, and they checked me for saying transvestite.
Can't say that. That's not a appropriate term.
No, it's what is it? I don't even know. I think it's just transsexual.
Wow.
Or transgender. Transgender.
Well, listen, Alex. This is the thing about it, man.
You're familiar with the word transvestite, right?
Oh, no motherfucking
Yeah.
doubt. You know what I mean?
I went to Hollywood High School. I used to walk out of the school.
Yeah.
And as soon as I hit Hollywood Boulevard, it would be a bunch of transvestites.
Hey, man, listen. The thing about it is, this is what I'm getting pissed off about in society. You know, y'all trying to change the game so late in our lives. You know what I mean? Now, for my kids or for my grandkids and stuff like that, yeah, they may come up with transgender restrooms or, you know, gender neutral this and that. We didn't grow up like that. We grew up men and women. If you was born with a dick, you was a boy. You know what I mean? It wasn't no question about it. Nobody could argue that. So to tell me that I'm wrong after 40, I'm 49 years old. So to tell me I'm wrong after 45 years of my life, that is not going to change to me, Alice. And this is where the argument comes in. That I understand that you guys are trying to understand society now. All I'm saying is 45 years of my life, I knew this. I knew it was a boy if you had this or did that. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to pick up some of the new terms or agree to the new terms just based on after 45 years. I've known this. That's all I'm saying, you know.
Yeah, man. This I remember I said the word broad a couple years ago in front of a female, and she took offense to it. And I said, I grew up with that word. My dad used to call my mom that.
Yeah.
So I don't mean no offense by the term, but they're trying to give me a lesson about current society doesn't use that word anymore, Alex.
Last female told me she was offended by the term broad. I used the term bitch. You know what I mean? And then she was like, "That's more okay." Well, then you gonna get. You know what I mean? Knock it off. Stop trying to. You know, I was broad. It's never, like you say, it's been a derogatory term towards females. You know what I mean? You know, so sometimes when me right now, I'm not in a battle against it, but when people try to correct me or check me on something I said, I let them know that it could get worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so accept what the fuck I said. You know what I mean? And you know.
So what would you say to let's say someone drops a comment and say, "Man, I think you was insensitive about the way that YG put out this song about robbing rappers right when a rapper gets murdered in LA," and they tell you that's a bit insensitive, that you don't have no negative word for YG. What would you say to that person?
Well, I'm gonna say this, you know what I mean? My opinion is this. PnB Rock is not the first rapper that been robbed in LA. He's not the first rapper that been gunned down, you know what I mean? And like you say, he's a rapper. I'm going to go back to how many black men are getting gunned down in L.A., how many people are getting killed in L.A., period, you know what I mean, due to robberies, you know what I mean? He's not special to where he's above and beyond people going about their everyday lives because he got killed for slipping. You know what I mean? And one thing about slipping, a lot of people who may listen to our podcast might not know what slipping is. Slipping is when you're doing something, you know, and you out of pocket. You know what I mean? You don't got a pistol. You in an area you shouldn't be in, and somebody get your ass. You slipping. You know what I mean? Alex, I know when I go to certain places, if I'm there, I don't have a gun, or this is an all Crip neighborhood, and the Crips rush me, I was slipping. I got to blame me for that. I was slipping. You get what I'm saying? So it goes back to him. He was slipping. He was lacking. He was the one that, you know what I mean, that was at a spot that he shouldn't have been at. And I'm supposed to have all this empathy and sympathy for him. You know what I mean? If he was at church or something, then I might would. But bro, you was on Manchester, Maine. I mean, it goes back to
crazy.
Alex,
I'm laughing again, but you're right. When you're saying Manchester, Maine, you're making me laugh.
Dog, so I'm not being empathetic or, like I say, but at the same time, bro, shit. I'm not. This shit happens every day all across America.
Yeah. I'm sure some of the people complaining live in very small towns with maybe 20,000 people where they get like one murder a year. But I want to read a couple of tweets that were in response to YG dropping this song. This is posted on the Hip Hop DX website. Rick says, RIQ says, in light of PnB Rock being robbed and murdered in LA, YG dropping a song called How to Rob a Rapper is a little too much. Ben Dover says, I ain't saying YG dissing PnB Rock with this new song, but the timing is terrible. 42 from New York says, we live in an age where songs can be removed from albums in real time. YG, How to Rob a Rapper should have been taken off considering the PnB Rock. That's just a few. And this is off of his album called I Got Issues. And that last person that tweeted that, 42 from New York, is actually saying he should have just took the song off the album.
I disagree with every single one of them based on, like I said, when PnB Rock died, you took your ass to work. You know what I mean? Now, at the same time, you may look at YG and say, okay, you rich, you know what I mean? You taking a song off an album or delaying a song, who's to say he might not delay the song for 6 months? As soon as he get ready to drop it, another rapper don't get robbed and killed.
I know.
You know what I mean? So he's never supposed to put the song out. Not to mention, going back to when music was real. Even love music, when they talked about heartache, when they talked about catching a man or woman cheating, when they got to talk about music used to be real. You know what I mean? And what about Ice Cube? You know what I mean? When they say, when they went to St. Louis, you know what I mean? And they started doing drive-bys in St. Louis to clear them out so they can open up their dope spot. Everybody was bobbing their head to that shit. You know what I mean? They were talking about people getting shot, people getting killed for them to open up their dope spot. You know what I mean? And I just believe America is getting so watered down. They're getting so insensitive about every single thing. You know what I mean? That they need to understand and realize that this shit happens so often now that you can't avoid. If I stop talking about rappers getting killed, or it's another rapper's going to get killed at some other point in life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think they being insensitive. I think because they got the ability to make a comment, they will, but shit, he had to drop it. I mean, he made the song, should drop it.
Yeah. This last tweet from a guy on Twitter goes by What Up Doe. He wrote, in light of PnB's tragic murder, it was extremely irresponsible of Def Jam to let this How to Rob a Rapper track on YG's album come out so soon. And the cover art for this album is so ass. The cover art for this album is so ass. I don't know what that means, but basically he's actually criticizing Def Jam, YG's label, for even putting it out. But I mean, come on, this is a business. We live in a capitalistic society. The whole purpose of creating art and putting it out there for distribution is to make money and to give it to the masses. And one rapper actually loves this song, 50 Cent. And 50 Cent actually came on the scene. I think his first hit was How to Rob, but it was about robbing rappers for beats. No, was it for no. Ice Cube had Jackin' for Beats. Yeah, he had Jackin' for Beats. No, 50 Cent's song was actually about robbing other rappers. Yeah. So 50 Cent, he likes it obviously because he did a similar song 20 something years ago.
Well, let's look at it real fast on the flip side. Had you waited any longer, you know what I mean, and you gave Mozzie enough time to get home and you dropped the song, then it would look like y'all just did it, 6 months from now. You still seem like, no matter when they dropped it, you seem like you mocking PnB. You know what I mean? So drop it now. Y'all know Mozzie was here. Mozzie was been gone since PnB Rock was killed. So where do your brain say, okay, they did this even before this guy got killed? We get it. Boom.
Yeah, I think they understand that, but obviously some people just felt it was insensitive. But hey, it is what it is, man. And you expect someone like YG to even? Now, I could understand if it was maybe like
this ain't Adele or nobody.
Yeah.
This ain't motherfucking, Mariah Carey.
Yeah,
It's YG, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you talking about a gangster rapper?
Talking about the first album was called Still Brazy, and you talking about, man, knock it off. Y'all get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, so go tap in. A lot of people are actually saying his new album is really good. I Got Issues. I guess it just dropped. And this particular song features Mozzie and D3 from the Nickerson Gardens. So let's move on to a related topic, man. And I was kind of surprised that this law got pushed through so fast. But Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, signed a bill called AB 2799. Yeah, AB 2799. And basically, it prevents California prosecutors, including those in Los Angeles County, for using rap lyrics or using someone's art against them if it's not specifically related to a crime.
Right. I mean, but that should be, you know what? It shouldn't have had to be done. But the DA over there in Fulton County, is over there indicting people in Atlanta for, and they allowing them to use rap lyrics. Cali said, you know what? We finna cut this shit out right now. We not even finna allow DAs to think that they finna get away with that. You know what I mean? So they nipped it in the bud over here on the West Coast. And I commend them for that, because they shouldn't be able to use, you don't use the Temptations for shit they said about beating their wives or something back in 73. You know what I mean? Y'all didn't use all this shit back then. So don't come with the new shit. And then when you say rappers, because y'all not bringing Elton John lyrics into to court, you talking about rappers, predominantly black. You know what I mean? Come on, man, knock it off.
Yeah. I want to read a part of it here. It says the law requires a court in a criminal proceeding where a party seeks to admit as evidence a form of creative expression to consider specified factors when balancing the probative value of that evidence against the substantial danger of undue prejudice. So basically, just because somebody says something crazy in art form doesn't mean they are actually guilty of a crazy crime that they're being alleged to have committed. Right. So they can't bring the two together. And I just had a case that we got a hung jury on, and this dude, and in fact, it wasn't even him, it was his brother. This is crazy. The brother is charged with shooting some dudes that came to a party. I think I briefly talked about this before. He shot at 3 dudes that tried to rush his party, shot one of them. They used a video that his brother shot, and where he was in and in the back holding a gun, and they just they wanted to use that to create an undue prejudice against the defendant, because they're saying, look, he's in this video flashing a gun. Therefore, we want you to find him guilty for this shooting, even though it has nothing to do with him flashing a gun in this video. So as this law would not allow that to happen now. This just happened like maybe 4 months ago.
But it should. You know what I mean? It shouldn't. You know what I mean? They reaching. You know what I mean? You can't say something I did on Friday. I should be convicted of a crime that I did on Sunday. You know what I mean? Or action that I did, or something that I said on Friday. Be able to be admissible in court for something that I did on Sunday. So I agree with this 100%. I'm glad Cali just setting the tone for it, that cut that out right now.
And it's not just the actual lyrics. It's also the video. It's the performance part of it. It's all aspects of expression related to that song.
Right.
Flashing a gun in the video, even though that's not a lyric, that will not be allowed anymore under this law. So, man, shout out to Governor Newsom for signing it. And there were a whole bunch of other state legislators behind it, and it was unanimously passed. And of course, this conversation about rap and lyrics is blowing up in Georgia because of the Young Thug, because of the Gunna. And it's just crazy that we got to write a law to prevent our art being used against us in court.
No doubt, but it has been written and had to be done, before district attorneys get to start trying to, go overboard with, accusations and shit. So, some of the shit got to be done, man.
Now, I wonder if anyone who has been convicted of a crime where the prosecutor did use some rap lyrics, because it actually happens a lot here in LA on small cases.
Right.
A dude has a YouTube video, they bring the videos in. Oh, yeah, he said this, he said that. And they use that and he's found guilty. Will a defendant be able to go back retroactively and fight a conviction that he felt occurred because the prosecutor showed YouTube videos?
Well, those one kids got caught up on the video on a song where you say, damn, what was that song last week? I caught a body about a week ago, and they, it was some lyrics from that song that actually was true, and they went and convicted him based on some shit he said in that song. From what I hear about that song, though, it was actually true. He said too much shit that was really like shit that happened in real life. You know what I mean? But my whole thing is, why would you be rapping about some shit that happened in real life like that? I've heard some crazy part about is I heard some local rappers say some shit. You know what I mean? And they, and if you didn't know what they was talking about, you didn't know what they was talking about. But if you did, you really did. I'm like, you got to be the dumbest motherfuckers in the world. You know what I mean? So rappers just need to cut that shit out, keep that shit fictional, to a certain level that, you know what I mean, where motherfuckers, not talk about the real business.
Well, if you do rap about something that is real and they could link it, they can still use that.
Hell yeah, they can.
In fact, we spoke about that rapper from Florida, I believe, who rapped about getting EDD and PPP money.
Right.
And I think he's about to do a few years in the feds because of that. And they used that song, they used that video, and he actually flashed the envelopes. They're the real PPP and the real EDD mail in the video. So that's still gonna happen to guys who
dumb as a motherfucker. Yeah. That was some dumb shit right there.
Yeah.
So just say what it is, Alex. For a stupid motherfucker to do some shit like that, you deserve a year or two upside your motherfucking head, for doing some shit like that.
I'm surprised how fast this law got pushed through, the state assembly and got signed by the governor. This shit usually takes like years.
I believe he saw it coming down the pipeline that his DAs was going to start trying to do that shit. You know what I mean? So he nipped it in the bud, before y'all even get going, he knows his DA's office. Gascon probably started saying he's hearing it coming down the pipeline, got him to agree with it and shit and say, listen, man, look, come on, man. We already trying to get rid of the gun enhancements, get rid of the all the extra bullshit. Let's get rid of this right now. And he agreed to it, which I felt was in the best interest of California.
And California is the first state to do it. Yeah. And maybe we'll see some other states to do it, but some Congress people were trying to do this on the national level. Hank Johnson of Georgia and Jamal Bowman of New York proposed legislation in July that would ban lyrics being used as evidence across the whole country.
Right.
But it's halted right now.
It got hung up in it. Got hung up.
So they're waiting on, for there's been no movement on that law.
Right.
Where here in California, boom, it got to Governor Newsom's desk. He signed it. He becomes the first state in the union to have a law against using rap lyrics in criminal court. I think it's just revolutionary at this point.
No doubt, but shit, California revolutionary, and you already know that. So we be the first to set the tone in a whole lot of shit. You know what I mean? So hopefully this just be one of the positive ones that other court systems can pick up. The gangsters out there or gangster rappers out there could appreciate. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, they didn't have to do it, but they did. You know what I mean? So people have to take the good with the bad. People can talk shit about the judicial system and this and that, but like I say, while Gascon is in here, and he's pushing what he's pushing, if he was able to get the governor to, agree with this, you know what I mean, which I believe was the right decision, then hey man, that's kudos to them.
When the bill got signed, Gavin Newsom had a video call with a whole bunch of rappers. It was Meek Mill, Too Short, E40, Killer Mike, YG, Ty Dolla $ign, and Tiger were all present in a video call, like a Zoom call, when the governor signed it. So I thought that was interesting that the governor he's digitally posted up with all these rappers.
No doubt, but they understand, some of these rappers, just to be honest, probably not none of the ones you name, but it's a whole lot of rappers out here to fabricate shit in their rhymes, which is fine. You know what I mean? Cool, it's and just to make the song realistic about what's happening in the world. You know what I mean? So don't book me on something that I fabricated just because other shit in the world is going on like that. That don't mean I did it specifically. You know what I mean? And a singer, a rapper, or any musician should be able to go on there and paint a picture, because every artist, when you talk about music-wise, every artist ain't did all the shit that they singing about. Somebody else might have wrote the song. You know what I mean? And I don't believe that nobody should be held accountable for just trying to make a song and make people aware of whatever they trying to make them aware of. I don't think they should be held accountable for that.
Well, the prosecutors in Florida want to use YNW Melly's song "Murder on My Mind," even though it has nothing to do with the specific allegations that he's facing. But the fact that he's rapping about murder, they feel like that would be, the prosecution, of course, feels like that would be important information to let the jury know. But again, that just brings in prejudice.
No doubt.
Because he's just singing about murder.
You're just thinking about it, and the cold part about it that you even get to talk to the jurors like this. You know what I mean? And what people don't understand is when it comes to the jury, these are people who are prominent citizens of the community. They most likely have government jobs, county jobs, city jobs. They're working class people. You know what I mean? Who doesn't want crime committed in their neighborhood? I get that. You'll never have a guy like me on the jury. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, these are people who want crime out their neighborhood. So when you say some shit like that, yeah, he's rapping about murder, they're going to take it as they're going to believe that. You know what I mean? That's what kind of guy he is. And that's the fucked up part about it. And they talking about we judge by a jury of our peers. Technically, we not, because if I was judged by a jury of my peers, you would go get the homies or go get the homie mama and them. And
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of the jury pool might say to themselves, well, if this guy is rapping about it, then he must be doing it too.
Yeah.
So he's guilty already.
He's guilty already.
Yeah. Have you ever had a jury summons where they asked you to come down?
Yeah, I did one time, and it was the funniest hit. It was the funniest shit in the world because I was in prison, and they sent me a jury summons to prison, right? So how did this even get here? You know what I mean? And I said I had jury duty and shit. My case manager, we all just laughed and shit. They like, we don't know. You know what I mean? But what happened was, I think they sent it to my house, and my wife said, he couldn't possibly serve. He's in prison. They must have said, well, what's the address?
That's crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was the funniest shit we had seen.
So when it came to your cell, did you try to follow up to see how far you can take it?
Hell no. I laughed. So I even showed my case manager. She laughed. You know what I mean? Probably just was a situation where, hey, it slipped through the crack. But I also had another situation where, when my wife was trying to become a sheriff's dispatch, 911 operator, and they were doing the background check on her, and they were sending, I guess, information cards or surveys to the closest friends that I guess she gave on file. They fucking sent one to prison, man. You know what I mean? And I told them, I'm not finna spill this out. And at the end of the day, she got the job, Alex. When she went for the initial, they said she's hired. Out of 28 people, 3 people got hired. She was one of them. They end up calling her in the office and asking her, who is this guy? You know what I mean? And it was me. And they were saying, it's just no way we can, by this being your husband, there's no way that we can let you, work here and shit. They didn't do their whole due diligence before, and I felt so bad based on, she's I don't even think my wife ever had a ticket to this day, Alex.
So they were using you against her getting hired because of your background?
They already had hired. They have 3 people who made it. And when they went to the hiring, they called her in there, and they was like, this guy right here, this your husband? You know what I mean? She's like, yeah. She's like, they didn't catch it. Before then they didn't catch it. And when they called it, they told her, man, we can't do it. I felt bad because she was trying to go do something in her career to be successful in life in order to keep living, you know what I mean? And yeah, they shut that down. But some shit slipped through the crack like that jury summons, you know what I mean?
I think that might be illegal to hold another person's criminal record against them. I would follow up on that. How many years ago was that?
Oh man, she been with her on the job 15 years now, so that was so long ago. You know, that was right as soon as I back in 05, 06, right when I fell.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, because I was just in a meeting last night with the sheriff, Alex Villanueva, and the discussion. Part of the discussion was about a lot of black cops are not getting hired. We're seeing black cops in smaller numbers, and one of the reasons I believe, and this is based on talking to black cops, is that they get disqualified because they have a family member that gang bang.
Right.
But it's not legal to do that. They don't tell you, oh, we're going to disqualify you because your cousin Pookie is from whatever set.
Avalon and stuff. Yeah.
But they're saying now law enforcement is saying that we're not going to hold people accountable to what their family members have done, whether it's a sibling or a cousin. But I meet sheriff deputies all the time that have brothers that are in the gangs.
No
so
doubt.
I think it's black people are getting targeted.
Hey, they got a way to weave out who they want to weave out. One thing about this system, and when I say the system, I mean the American system, and all of us, Alex, you know what I mean? You've hired people before. When I had my trucking company, I looked for potential, hirees before. And the thing about it, we get to use our discretion based on what we want to. You know what I mean? And we could sit there and actually say that yes, not enough black cops are being hired based on they have family members incarcerated or certain situations, but always go back to when you were hiring somebody or when I was potentially hiring somebody. We look at certain factors and we do make we make a what am the word I'm looking for? We prejudge them.
Yeah, that's true. I particularly don't like hiring people that smoke a lot of weed.
Right. Oh, no shit. No doubt.
Even though some of these guys might do well, some people probably do perform well.
Nah, they perform well, though. I need you to work faster.
Yeah. But, man, that's disappointing that your wife was judged based on what you did. And I know a lot of guys that want to be cops, because I feel like we need more black cops. We need more black deputies. But there ain't a whole lot of them, and they getting disqualified because of family.
No doubt, because my family member don't dictate my integrity. You know what I mean? And yours don't either. So we can have families that do all kind of stuff. That don't mean that our integrity going to allow us to change the person that we actually are on the inside. But this is how people get around making the decisions that they make,
Yeah, I'm surprised that a lot of these law enforcement, and I guess to a certain degree 911 is connected to law enforcement. They're judging people so harshly, but when you made your point about the juries, I did jury duty once and I got disqualified after a few questions, but I was just shocked at how many people in that room were as dumb as they were, because it was a DUI case. The judge asked us a question that you need two elements of proof to find this person guilty. It's a hypothetical question. And all you have is the cop saying that a breathalyzer said he was drunk. You need two items of proof. You have the DUI test, the breathalyzer, and that's it. So then the judge asks everybody, do you say guilty or not guilty? It's a pretty simple question. We got one thing of evidence. Right. The judge said you need two.
You need two, right.
Half that room said guilty.
Wow.
I was like, what? And then the judge would ask those people, well, why did you say guilty? I said, you need two things and there's only one. Well, if the cop said he was drunk, then that's all I really need. Right. I'm like, wow, this is amazing how people think in this jury process.
Well, the thing about it's funny. I have a friend in jury duty at this moment. It's she might be home by now, but at jury right now. They got a case. Crazy thing about it is she wanted to get off jury duty. She was doing everything she can, but they picked her, right? So she stuck to the jury codes, didn't tell me a thing about what the case was or nothing like that. But at the same time, I told her, I say, it may be good for you to be there, though. your perspective on life. I know you. So your perspective on life just not finna let you have a foreman come say that a person is guilty or we should run this route if you don't believe that in your heart. I know what kind of person you are. You know what I mean? So many, like you say, yes men, or people to just say, well, if the cop said, you know, this is not that kind of person. She's a professional, you know, in life, you know, but at the same time, not going to just go for anything. And sometimes we need independent minded people. We need black people are always trying to get out of jury duty when we need black people at jury duty.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? You know, so stop trying to duck jury duty. We need y'all. You know what I mean? Especially people with the independent minded people, we need you at jury duty.
I was trying to get on that DUI jury too. I was answering the questions as best as I could, and then after
They don't want you on jury.
I think they started asking questions about what do you do for work, you know, what kind of what kind of background do you have, and then after that it was like, you can go home, Alex.
Yeah, you can go and get up out of here, man. You too opinionated. You've been on too many motherfucking in too many courtrooms. You know how this shit work. We don't want you.
I think once I brought up court, they realized that I wouldn't be. I don't know what the conclusion was, but I think I could have been a fair juror on that DUI case, but they determined that I wasn't. But I went down there to do my duty. I wanted to, you know, do my civic duty, but they didn't pick me anyways. But with the jury, like you said earlier, the rap lyrics is all some jurors need. And believe me when I say that jurors are not that intelligent when it comes to people of color that are on trial for a crime, because all those prejudices that they see on the news that the prosecutor's throwing at them, they use that. They soak that in and they make their decisions based on the prejudices and sometimes not even on the evidence.
No doubt. I'm 100%.
And it's very disappointing. So I'm glad that this law passed. It's just one less thing the prosecutor has to try to bias a whole trial. But lastly, before we wrap this up, there's a book called Rap on Trial, Race, Lyrics, and Guilt in America by Eric Nielsen and Andrea Dennis. And they were very happy about this law here in California. And they said that rap music is the only fictional musical genre used this way because its primary producers are young black men. And I agree with that to a certain extent, but a lot of people don't really know about the narco corridos music, Mexican music. Mm-hmm. These dudes sing about the cartels. They sing about drug trafficking. They sing about El Chapo. They sing about all this crazy shit, but because it's in Spanish, most people don't even, aren't paying attention to it. But if you ever listen to narco corridos, it's some of the most gangster shit that I've ever heard, people sing. In fact, one of the dudes got killed on stage while performing because he went too far in what he was saying. And there's a video on it. Someone passes him a note while he's singing. He looks at the note and he basically says, F this note, and then somebody domes him. But I would say rap is definitely a music genre that has been given a bad rap.
Oh, no doubt, man. Come on, man. That goes without saying, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? It's been given a bad rap, But let me tell you when it started getting a bad rap. Back when hip-hop was coming in, when they was, breaking in Beat Street, they got a bad rap for riding on trains and tagging and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And being in places that they shouldn't have been holding rap battles. They were mad about that. Now they mad because these rappers getting millions and millions of dollars, man, and they live next door to them in the hills. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They driving Bentleys and they got airplanes and shit. You know what I mean? And so these people, you got to realize, man, that they don't want us to have that kind of, even the athletes. You know what I mean? They don't want motherfuckers to run it up like that. Now, average rappers making $1 million easy. It's rappers that by the time you hear about them, they already got $1 million. You know what I mean? They already live in the hills. They already drive a Rolls Royce, And so at the end of the day, man, they're going to come with something else. If it ain't the rap lyrics in court, they're going to come with something else.
Well, these rappers that are extremely successful, they also have to, I feel, disconnect from their old street ties more so than they do. A lot of these rappers, they hang out maybe a little too much. They go on the block a little too much. Hey, they might break off, some money to a couple of homies that end up going to buy guns. That's not the rapper's fault. That's what this person did.
Right.
And in these weird ways, they can get pulled into a case. So there's rappers that have done a great job, like staying out of trouble, like Ice Cube, and he's probably one of the most gangster rappers, of all time. But you ain't never seen Ice Cube in no drama.
Right, but it's really rappers out here that's really with the bullshit and doing dumb shit. There's really rappers out here that's really driving guns around in they Rolls Royce to go take to the homies. I mean, I got to look at it both ways. It's really some dumb motherfuckers out here that's giving everybody else a bad name. You know what I mean? To prove their realness, or they was really street dudes and then they got the money and didn't understand that when the money, I need separation. Let me have a liaison or somebody go do the bush. If I am a part of that,
Yeah.
they not doing that. They said, nah, man, this is what I did, when I was before I got rich. I'm going to keep running this shit like how I'm running it. And then this is where you get caught up or find yourself on trial for a conspiracy or some shit like that.
Yeah, man, it's unfortunate that some rappers need I guess a certain type of education once you reach a certain level, economic level. If you enjoy making money, if you enjoy being free, if you enjoy all the luxuries that come with being a successful artist, you throw all that away if you make small mistakes. I'm not saying that Young Thug and Gunna are guilty of anything, but I'm sure that they could have moved better to prevent this even happening to them in the first place.
No doubt, but at the same time, that's where I go back to say, some of us have to learn that we have to do things different in order to survive because we're in a different situation. And I use the term we because I don't exclude myself. You know what I mean? All my life, you know what I mean? If something happened, I'm going to pull up myself, Alex. I'm not going to call no niggas to go handle the business for me. I'm going to pull up. But I do have to realize that damn near 50 in the situation I have. I have a house, I have a home, I have a wife, I have kids in college, I have, certain shit. But the inside of me saying, hold on, if it's a problem, I'm going to pull up. You know what I mean? So I do get it to a certain extent, but at the same time, these guys got to understand that when you mess with millions of dollars, you know what I mean? That's one. I'm not messing with $1 million. When you mess with $1 million, that spotlights get extra put on you. They already are on you just based on the lifestyle that you live. So when you go do this extra dumb shit, then it's extra amplified. You know what I mean? Because they already don't feel that you should have this money, even though they know you made rap music doing it. They don't want you to have it. So, these guys do actually need to be extra precautious. All the rappers out there with that big money, man. Hey, man, listen, we know you was a gangster before. We know you was down before. Be wise, separate yourself, live clean because these people don't want to see you with that money.
Yeah, and I would say that maybe you don't really need to pull up anymore, period, at this point in your life. You've already proved everything you need to prove. Everyone that has anything to say about you, say you solid. You get all the respect from people who know you, who don't know you. So you don't even need to pull up anymore. Not only do you have your wife and your kids, your home, you got a podcast too.
No doubt, Alex. But at the same time, this is where when I see the NFL players do dumb shit, I used to ask a bunch of questions like, they're in the NFL. Why would they do some dumb shit like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I take that, to myself. I start to understand that when you've been a part of certain situations for so long, you know what I mean? When you say don't pull up, okay, when you say don't pull up, that mean I'm where? Somewhere where I'm not used to being, or somewhere I'm not in the element that I've always been in my entire career. You know what I mean? So I get it, but at the same time, the feeling is fucking like, hold on. They said what? At what part? I'm pulling up. You know what I mean? And at the same time, some of us, the rappers, certain people in certain situations, you're right. It's time to stop. Even being baited to even come down to pull up because of your situation, but it's something that's not. I'm a vouch for some of these guys. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, I understand. I try to limit my pull-ups as much as possible, man. But let's shout out Governor Gavin Newsom for signing AB 2799, which prohibits state prosecutors from using not just rap lyrics, but all aspects of their art against them in court, unless, of course, it's directly related to their allegations. Any final thoughts on this bill or a YG song or the PnB case, man?
Well, I love the bill. I appreciate that they jumped out there and nipped that in the bud fast.
Amazing.
You know, I mean, I really commend California on that, Gavin Newsom and whoever else was involved. YG, push your shit, homie. That shit was out before dude got killed.
Yeah.
Push your shit. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate that he did get killed and his life was took behind a robbery and things of that nature. But at the same time, you made that shit before he even went down. And it will always, because of the PnB Rock heightened publicity, it will give your song more publicity so people can fucking learn from it. Stop doing certain shit. This is how we think. Or this how society thinks about you dudes out here with rap money, gold chains, big cars, you know. So it could be educational as well. And as far as everything else, man, you know, hey, streets and scholars.
Hey, that song by YG, I look at it as educational. It is the do's and don'ts of coming to Los Angeles, coming to Southern California, or any city. It don't even have to be LA. But of course, LA has got the spotlight right now. I think it's very educational. I know that it looks insensitive, but shoot, that means you're taking it insensitive. Take it for the value that is there. Take it for the lessons that you can learn from it. And at the same time, you get entertained. I was actually laughing when I'm watching the video. I was like, this motherfucker's crazy.
No, no doubt. But I mean, go back to the song Ice Cube, How to Survive in South Central. A place where busting a cap is fundamental. You know what I mean? He tried to tell you back then how to survive. So what's so different about, you know, this situation? You know what I mean? It could be used as a tool to deter you from doing the dumb shit you do when you come out here. And like I said, it could help, Alex.
All right, man. So what's going on with FG Unleashed, man? Any new content?
No, FG Unleashed over there chilling, man. You know, I got to get some content out. But like I say, I focus a lot more on streets and scholars, man, you know, because we in here every week, you know, trying to get this thing blew up, man. You know, I think it's going great over here, man. But I do need to get something out over there, you know, so.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people been tapping in with your channel. So, you know, you already got a fan base that's growing over there. They want to see some more content. And I know you got tons of stories to tell.
No doubt, no doubt. You know what I mean? You know, I sit back and laugh and be like, man, they would just love this one. And I just don't do it, but you know.
And tons of people to tap in with if you want to bring them in, because you already got all your equipment. So
no doubt, no doubt. You know, I got the equipment. You know, I got the people. You know what I mean? And I just got to put it together, man.
That's cool. That's cool. We'll tap in with Alex Alonso 101 on all social media platforms. FG is at FGeneral1 on Instagram. And don't forget to check out some of the video clips of Streets and Scholars on the Street TV YouTube channel. If you're listening on Apple or iTunes, leave us a rating. Leave us a 5-star rating if you like the show. And you could also leave a review and a question. And we'll do an episode where we just answer questions, man. Because there's some questions that have been building up. I'm gonna eventually answer everybody's question. And thanks for listening to another fire episode of Streets and Scholars.
No doubt.